Appreciate it. How's everyone doing today? Good? Yeah? All right. So I'll do the quick obligatory who I am and who I work for, and then we'll get into the fun stuff. So I'm the VP Customer Success at a company called Trustpilot. We have a global team of about 50 folks in 6 offices, and we have roughly 10,000 customers. We are a SaaS company. That's how we have 10,000 customers. What we do at Trustpilot is we provide a online reviews platform. My marketing team hates it when I say it, but think about TripAdvisor for e-commerce companies. That's just a really easy way to get through all that. Companies use our tools. They then solicit their customers for reviews about their buying experience with their company. We can then leverage those reviews for both, they can leverage them rather internally for both operational improvements as well as certain SEO benefits and on-site trust and transparency areas. So before we get into this, who here works in account management versus customer success? If you're in account management, raise your hand. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So that's good, because really it's really important that we get into this and we just all establish a baseline that customer success is not account management. Account management, moving from account management to customer success, is more than just marketing. It's more than just branding. There's something serious about this. So we'll kind of go over a little bit about before we begin implementing the program, discovering what your needs are, implementing the change, and then hopefully acting on the results. So first, just so we get a little clarity here, account management, which is the past, that worked fine when there was very little competition. That worked fine when you had an annual trade show where you put your flyers out and customers would come by and they'd evaluate your products and what they wanted to do for the next year. Basic account maintenance was great. You'd send them a card at the holiday season, maybe give them a call over the summer. For your larger customers, you might go out and do a visit once a year, things like that. But effectively, account manager is just one step up from a billing contact. Customer success is very different. This is a proactive approach to customers. Your products are changing, your products are evolving. We've heard that a lot today. The word adoption keeps coming up. So you need to be supporting that rapid shift. Who here releases product once a year? Who here releases product twice a year? Anyone release it like every week? Yep, okay. So how the heck do you think your customers are going to know what's going on? Because unless you are SAP or unless you are Oracle, likely your customers spend about 5% of their time with your product. So really that's what this is about. This is about continuous engagement over the life cycle at different times. And it really is a company-wide initiative. Like I say, I may have it in my title, but it has to be in our company DNA. And if it's not in your company DNA, it's just not going to work very well. So before you even begin thinking about putting in a customer success program, you need to make sure you ensure C-suite support. That means your chief revenue officer, your chief executive officer, your chief product officer. All of these folks need to be involved in this conversation. So I don't even count the 90 days yet. This is getting to the first day. So making sure that there's actually wide buy-in, actually wide support. And you're gonna have to talk with people you didn't think you'd have to talk to. You're gonna have to talk to your legal department, because they're likely sending out notices to customers that are very tersely worded, and that's not gonna work well for you. You need to talk to your accounts payable or accounts receivable teams rather, because they're sending out dunning notices that aren't very nice. So if you're gonna start having a proactive approach to your customers, you're gonna start interacting with them differently than you are in the past. So for that reason, you just need to make sure you talk to like a lot of people. And this is, I think, really what we say, it takes a village, right? So we've got some customer success teams on the side, right? A team lead with a customer success manager. You have your customer success manager. Maybe you have your integration managers or onboarding team members. Maybe you have some support members on there. And you might have a few of those teams, a few of those pods built out. But look at all the other groups that you need to be working with who might not be part of customer success, but are absolutely fundamental to customer success. Folks like customer marketing or product marketing. Those are both people that are reaching out on a regular basis to your customers. You need to understand what their messaging is, what their cadence looks like, and how you can support that or maybe drive it differently. Because again, who's closest to the customer than you? I mean, in every example Guy talked about this morning, there was the success manager from Tatango with the support of everyone behind her. That's what these people are. Your HR business partners are going to be important to this. We just heard from the folks at JobVite how important recruiting is in this effort. Making sure you have the right people who want to do customer success, not account management. You're going to need to work with your sales ops people. They're going to be the most fun to work with, right? Who has the pleasure of working with sales ops on an hourly basis? Yeah, exactly. So as you start approaching customers more proactively, not just 30 days before renewal, customers are going to hopefully start buying different product from you, want to talk about changes in payment terms, upgrades, downgrades, all this kind of stuff. So you're going to really have to work hard with your sales ops team to make sure that you've got the right support there. Again, your level 3 support folks, they may not be part of your customer success team, they may be more in the engineering world, but you're going to have to make sure to work with them so that way they have that understanding of the urgency when your success manager is reaching out to them. It's not enough just to get the email tomorrow, it's about getting the email today. Legal, obviously, they're involved in like everything. Whether it's figuring out what the right kind of contracts need to look like in this new world. Do you have terms like auto renew in there? Do you have terms like automatic increases in there? You have to start figuring some of these things out if you haven't already. And also data analytics. I mean, this is a data-driven world. They were talking about Zoe earlier today. I'm excited to see that. But what does your ideal customer look like? You think you know who your ideal customer is, but you probably actually are wrong. I know I was several times over, not just at Trustpilot, but elsewhere. So that's kind of the beginning. Any questions so far? Or do we want to hold anybody in, Ron? How do you want to do that? Okay. Cool. So the first thing you have to do on day one is assess your KPIs. This is just a small handful of what KPIs are, but really you need to figure out what your KPIs are. This is a conversation you're going to have with your senior leadership team. And everyone's going to have some different opinions, and your CFO is going to know about lifetime value and CAC. Your product officer is going to want to know about product adoption. Your CEO is going to want to know about churn. Everyone's going to have some different perspectives on this, but getting the right set of KPIs is really critical. And then figuring out if there's redundancies or if they're aligned. For example, do you need to measure the first year renewal rate if you're also measuring lifetime value? Don't those kind of go hand in hand? So maybe you just assess lifetime value as opposed to the first year renewal rate. Product adoption versus time to live. If we know they're adopting the product, that assumes that they're probably going fast. But if you want to really drive fast adoption, if your product is most valuable immediately, and it's important that you get them up and running in 2 days, not 2 months, then maybe time to live is the right metric for you. And then how are you measuring? What tools are you using? Again, we leverage Tango health scores and some other things, but there are also data points from when they start using the product to when the contract was signed. We'll get into that in a minute. The hardest thing on this list is going to be assessing what are your baselines, because you probably haven't been measuring that, so you're going to have to make some assumptions about that before, given the diversity here in the numbers. So while you're working with your leadership team to talk about customer success, your team needs to be figuring out what their mission statement is. Customer success is a change, right? We're changing from one way of running our business to another. So mission statements are just incredible exercises to help the team form it. And you can see, here's our mission statement. And we had several sessions here. We actually engaged our training department, our training development team to work with us and facilitate the conversation. And I was not in the room. There was no executives in the room. You really want the team to bubble up what they think their mission statement is. Of course, you're going to shift it to what you want it to be. But in the meantime, you support that growth. So our customer success mission statement is pretty clear: to forge strong relationships, accelerate product adoption, and maximize our ROI for our partners while growing the online review community, which consumers depend on. That's my team's global customer mission statement. Took us 2 or 3 weeks to get there. Words matter. Growing the online reviews community as opposed to an online review community. Because we're not just one of them, we are the only one as far as we're concerned. So great, so you've got a bunch of meetings set up to talk with the leadership about what you want to measure. You got your team running. Hopefully in a week or two, you can start driving down to the next part, which is what are your data sources. After you've established what your KPIs are, that'll really help you define what you want to have as a data source here. Excuse me. So, in our world here, Tango is obviously an important part of it. Probably Salesforce is probably an important part of it too. We use Zora as our subscription billing system. Unit 4 is our accounting system. We use HubSpot for some customer marketing and Zendesk Actually, we have multiple implementations of Zendesk. We have the typical support one, but then because our reviews community, we've got the ability for people to flag reviews and say they're fake or say they're false. We actually use Zendesk for managing that queue as well. So we have multiple Zendesk integrations running. But really, you know, you've got a lot of data here. What's the quality of the data sources? That's super important. I know that, you know, last year we transitioned from an email contract system where literally customers could just write back, okay, I agree. And that was considered a binding contract in our world. Now they have to click on something in Zora. I don't know if it's more or less legally acceptable, but I'm not finance or legal, so I don't care. But the point being, as you're looking at your Salesforce data, you know, and as you're making this transition, what is the quality of that data? Do you have correct start and end dates? Are customers correctly provisioned in Salesforce to match what they're using in your product? I know that of the roughly 1,800 accounts in the US, roughly a quarter of them are mismatched. Some customers are paying for a higher tier of product than they've been given access to. Some people are paying for a lower tier of product, and there are all kinds of reasons why. You've got that great new customer, and they wanted that other feature. They didn't realize it wasn't included. Are you really going to ask them for a few more dollars on day one of their relationship? No, you're probably just going to upgrade them. But following that through and making sure that you do an amendment, and you do that stuff hasn't happened probably in the past. So making sure you've got really good data sources, and that leads to understanding the limitations of your data. You know, most folks here probably have some VP of engineering who, if you're the VP of engineering, I apologize now, who probably, you know, present these stats all the time that you're like, that's a little bit of BS. I'm not sure I believe that. But they've produced a number that you don't have really a way to counter. So what you're going to want to work on is understanding what the limitations are. And then again, determining the relevance of the data sources. If you really care about customer adoption, then you're going to want to use things like Zendesk to see, are they logging a lot of tickets? Are they using the product effectively? You're probably going to care less about some of the financial side of the house. If you really care about the financial stuff, you might not care if they're using support systems or not. So really think about which one you want to do. So now that you've got your KPI structure, you need to think about your team and how your teams will be structured. Do you want to do pods? Do you want to do cross-functional? Where are people physically located? So what makes sense for teams? You know, we've got 6 offices around the world: Copenhagen, London, New York, Berlin, Denver, and Melbourne. So when we try and figure out what our teams look like, you're gonna have to figure that. You know, you're gonna have to think about how you want to virtually work together. And then determine how they're going to get paid. Just because, again, you're transitioning from an old world to a new world, and you're going to be driving them to different KPIs, so their compensation plan probably needs to change too. And if you can walk away with nothing else, keep it simple, okay? People just want to know how much they're going to make. They want to know what levers they need. When I started Trustpilot, the compensation plan was percentages of percentages of percentages. And to try and figure out what you're going to make with a clawback because someone canceled or didn't pay an invoice was virtually impossible. So my teams would just be surprised every quarter when they got paid out. And that's not healthy. You want them to know what they're doing. And by the way, we just spent 30 days figuring out what our KPIs are, figuring out what data sources we want to use, figuring out what we want to measure. So your comp plan probably has to change too. It probably isn't the same one going forward. So there may be issues around that in terms of changing it mid-year. Just make sure you just think ahead of that stuff. The way we structure our teams, you know, again, 10,000 customers, right? So clearly we've got some that run through a volume team. These are kind of we have your standard light, pro, enterprise products. So on the volume team is where we kind of run through the bulk of our accounts. Probably 30% by quantity, 10% by ACV run through that team. Again, using the campaigns feature in Tatango, we've automated all of the outbound stuff, so they only have to handle the reactions. And then you think about your nurture versus growth. There are accounts that you come in and you say, my gosh, I can't believe I just signed up FedEx, but I only signed up the local office here in San Francisco. I didn't sign up the national account. That might be a growth account. Whereas, oh my gosh, we just signed FedEx globally. That's pretty awesome. They're going to be nurture. And the difference between growth and nurture is in your nurture teams, you're going to want a very high retention rate. a very high usage rate, a very high adoption rate. Whereas in your growth teams, you may accept a higher churn rate, but you're going to expect a higher upsell rate. So that's something to think about how that makes sense in your business. And then, of course, there's the strategic accounts, because everyone likes being called a strategic account. But those are the special accounts. Those are the ones you're going to go visit, and you're going to have a different relationship with. They're the ones who are going to speak at a conference, for example. Things like that. So as you're thinking about that, how you want to segment your accounts out, there's one strategy that we've used. Team dynamics starts to get interesting, right? Because you can't turn over your entire staff for this project. You may want to, but you can't. So you need to start thinking about how your teams are going to work together differently going forward in a customer success world. We heard earlier about having that empathy and active listening and that presence, things like that. So what I've found successful is we've built pods out that support a book of business. And it lets you kind of blend across functional teams. We've got some success managers, integration managers, support managers working together. The way I thought about it when we started was, when in New York we have 15 success managers, 5 integration managers, and 5 support members. If you think about the network of communications there, that's some like 625 different lines of communication. But by taking a support person, a success person, integration person, you've now reduced that significantly. So that's the benefit of the pod structure. You also give people some opportunities to become team leads, managers, things like that you may not have had before in a more flat organization. And so again, a true partnership across the team and compensate accordingly. So, the integration managers might be compensated on how quickly people start using the product, whereas success managers are compensated on the health of a customer. Some different things to think about. And then finally, need to identify and get the resources allocated from different departments, because there are going to be other departments that are going to have to play with you here. Let's speed things up so we can take some questions maybe. Early warning systems, again, this is where Tatango comes into play. So data is king, so you've identified what your data sources are. You need this continuous feedback. Do you use NPS? Do you use CSAT? Are there other metrics you want to start pulling in? A system for displaying, analyzing, and responding to the data. So that's not just an inbox anymore. That is a tool like Tatango. That is a tool like Zendesk. And then you want to have an agile approach to this tools. I mean, when you're rolling out these kinds of tools, you need to be flexible with this, and they're not going to work right the first time. That's the only thing I can guarantee you about this deploying these systems. And then 75. What's your rollout plan going to be for this? Think about a communication plan. There's an internal one. What are you communicating across the company? There's an external one. What are your customers learning about you now that they didn't know before? Work with the various marketing teams. There's a social component to this. There's a customer marketing. There's demand gen, and there's leads and events. We're going to kick off a customer event. Customer success, and invite our customers to the office that are in the area. Something as simple as that. Don't forget about your sales teams. They can sell this. We can be a revenue center as well if we want to be, beyond just the subscription and the licensing stuff. But customer success can make a difference in the sales process. So make sure you're working with them and communicating them. And then shout it loud. Keep telling your customers, how things are changing. Day 90 and on. Again, who gets a release a week? Why would you not keep moving your customer success team differently every time? Iterate, iterate, iterate. I say to my team all the time, the only thing I know about 8 weeks from now is we're going to do something different. So if that helps to shake some people out, frankly. But if it's not a set it and forget it. This is not Ron Popeil. You need to keep moving and keep adjusting. Your product's going to change. Your customer base is going to change. You're going to be dealing with how the product was sold last year versus this year in different levels of customer expectations. So you're going to learn a lot after you get through there. So I think that's it for me. We have a few minutes for some questions, maybe?
Yep, we do have a few minutes for questions, so anyone wants to ask a question? I'm holding the mic, so yeah, sure.
For your largest customers, I would assume the ones in the strategic segment, do your sales teams remain engaged, or does that all roll to you guys?
That rolls as soon as a contract is signed. It comes over to us. There are scenarios they are allowed to have an upsell period, But they're not, generally speaking, sales folks aren't very good at that, I find. They tend to move on to the next thing because they've got a new number to hit. So we do have rules in place where they're allowed to engage, but generally speaking, they don't.
Sure.
Hi, great session. Thank you. If the organization already has a product-centric, if you want, or customer-centric, kind of process where the product team's already thinking about that, the sales, support, and they're all doing a good job of what they believe is a good job. And now we're looking that it is a bit siloed. When the customer goes from one part of the customer journey to the other part, it's completely different, or they dropped a lot of the balls, if you want, there. So we want to attack, if you want, with customer success across all of these different departments. But they're all already doing something. So what would you recommend, where to begin, if you want, as this new department where people are already trying to do a little bit of customer success?
I think in a respectful and polite way, you need to show them how little they're doing. For example, our product team said, well, Brian, we talk to customers all the time. And I just asked for the results of their latest conversations. They'd spoken with 12 customers. I have 10,000 customers. That is not speaking with customers. That is finding a few folks who maybe took your call. So we're in the process of building a customer council now. So that's helped the product team shift their thinking away from that we are customer centric to actually we could do better. And if we focus on product, let success managers focus on customers, everyone's going to win that way.
Any more questions here? Yeah.
Thanks for the session so far. Can you talk to me about the classification process between volume, growth? Like, how do you determine that, when in the process, and how do people potentially move from one to the other?
Yeah, so for us, the way our product is basically the two key components to us are domains and review count, if you will. We don't charge for reviews, but that's a measure of how big they are, how large they are. So if an individual has a domain and fundamentally a low order volume, because you need to make a purchase with the customer in order to generate a review invitation for their customer. That happens kind of early on. We've got a mass market sales team, and we've got a strategic sales team that helps up front make that decision. But then, we also have it set up. If we go back here for a second, when we look at these kind of four teams here, you can only every team can sell into the person to their right. My left, yeah, you're right. So the nurture team, if you do miss someone who's in volume that should be nurture, growth, or strategic, those folks are actually allowed to go hunt that area, if you will. They're not, but the volume team is not allowed to proactively push up. If a cut. Basically, we do use health scores, we do use triggers, and we use success plays to alert strategic managers of a pro account that could be a good target to be moved to a strategic account. So we have triggers set up by volumes. If we notice, their review count is going up, they just put a widget on site, and they're getting a lot of impressions on that widget. Those are two indicators for us. So we have a success play that triggers a task for someone to go take a look at that customer and evaluate, were they right all the time, or is there something better we can be doing with them?
So we're running out of time, and we need to go to the main event to hear more from other people. So thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm around if anyone wants.